HighVibe Conversations.
You are now listening to
HighVibe Conversations.
Hello, my name is Tawana Chamberlain, and I am your host for this new podcast called HighVibe Conversations. We just want to talk to people about what they are doing to stay motivated, positive, and to remain hopeful and inspired during this time of quarantine. So, this will just be a mixer, if you will, a virtual mixer. And I'll have some of my friends who are professionals and thought leaders in their industry. People who like to stay close to the light in terms of positivity and to bring joy to people, to bring hope and inspiration. We just want to keep the conversations on a high vibe, a higher frequency, and not give way to a lot of the negativity that we hear on the news or just with all the things that are going on around the globe in general. There is so much with coronavirus and COVID 19, the global pandemic, and we are finding our ways through this new normal right now. So I just wanted to create a podcast, a safe space where I could bring people on, like minded individuals, kindred spirits, to talk about how to remain hopeful and positive and optimistic and still productive at this time of quarantine and isolation. So I hope you will enjoy the podcast, and we'll go ahead and get started right away with my special guest for this episode. One I am so very excited about because not only is she a phenomenal woman with a brilliant mind, but she is also family. She is my Auntie Joy Jones, and I love her to life, and I really enjoyed our interview, and it really was more of a conversation that we had, and I want you guys to hear it because I know that you will learn something from it, and you will be able to take a wealth of knowledge and takeaways from it. So I know it'll bless your spirit because it definitely blessed mine. So without further ado, we will move right into our interview with Miss Joy S. Jones, my special guest for this podcast, High Vibe Conversations. So keep it locked right here. We'll be right back.
HighVibe Conversations.
Hello, and we are back with another episode of my podcast, High Vibe Conversations. And I am so honored and happy, and it just warms my heart that my Auntie Joy took time out of her very busy schedule to chat with me today. And as you all know, High Vibe Conversations, we like to keep it light and positive and uplifting. And so without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into my interview questions. And first up, I want to say, how are you doing today? Let me just do manners first. How are you today? How are you feeling?
I am well today, Tawana. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you on your podcast. I think it's a fabulous idea. I believe wholeheartedly that if we have anything that we can offer to each other in the way of uplift, insight, because none of us have been here before, but if we could have any word of encouragement for one another, then by God, let's do it.
Let's do it. I love it. I love it. So my first question is, what are some things that you do to remain positive and productive during this time of quarantine?
I will say I am pleased. I think now how they say you don't prepare for war while in war. I'm happy that I had a decent spiritual practice beforehand, and I'm just doing more of the same. And so what that looks like for me is, I'm a constant prayer, not in a traditional, like my mom, every night down on her knees beside her bed. And I do that too, but just prayer as a mindset, thinking of things that I'm grateful for, always having, scripture, lyrics, lyrics, because music is something that is always with you. And so I listen to you can win as long as you keep your head to the sky. Be optimistic.
Right,
I mean,
right.
and it's like, because I have trained myself to, junk in, junk out. You put some good stuff in, you get some good stuff out.
Right.
And so listening to artists who edify has been remarkable. I mean, just like, no weapon against me, no weapon for me, it's the same thing, hearing Stevie Wonder say, don't you worry about a thing. All the, because those things come to me in the middle of my doubt and fear and worry, because all those things do creep in. This is serious. But
very serious.
But you know what I mean? It's like, practice makes permanent. And the fact that those lyrics and things are embedded in my very soul, you got to be your own cheerleader. And those, having that in my spiritual bank keeps me from going bankrupt.
Oh, honey, that's almost a tweetable moment right there. Did you say having those things in my spiritual bank keeps me from going bankrupt? Ooh, yeah, honey, I love that. I love that. So my second question is, what advice would you give to others to uplift them? Now, you kind of already discussed that, but do you have any other tips or tidbits that you can give to others right now during
Turn off the news. Turn off the news. They're not saying anything new from hour to hour, from day to day.
Right.
Check in, know what's going on, but turn off the news, because all it does is just it's fear mongering, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It keeps you paralyzed.
Right.
Find things to do that you can control. You can clean out your sink. You can empty your dishwasher. You can arrange your books. You can, you know what I mean? Do productive things. And I'm not saying sit down and write a book, because, it's that whole productivity mindset, I think, that makes us be in this whole mode of always doing without taking any stock about what we're doing it for and what purpose it's serving. It's okay to be still and use the time to be still. Check on people. Yes. It's like, if you're feeling fearful, call somebody and ask them if they got do you need a loaf of bread? Can I make you a pot of beans?
Love
you know what I mean? Things like that. Because I was listening, Oprah has a really dynamic forum on the OWN network where it's Black women talking about, and so there's Black physicians and business owners, and like they said, we've been in this mode already. And there was this older black woman, Mrs. Robinson. She said, prepare for the worst case scenario, but pray and know God's got you, and don't waste the opportunity to be doing for others. And you know what I mean? If you're just worried about what's happening to yourself and your family, I think you're thinking too small. There is some neighbor or somebody. We always have enough to help somebody else. And just the thought of, rather than turn on the news, think of 3 people that you could call and do a favor for, and look, and don't talk about it. It ain't nothing to brag about, because we all need each other. You know what I mean? We all need each other, and now is the time to do it, because we are our own saviors. Nobody's coming to save us. I was horrified when I saw the biggest preachers, literally and figuratively, in America, having this moral call to the government to save Black people. And I'm like, Lord, these are the same people who enslaved us years ago and are now operating in the same way. Who is running the country right now? It's built on the backs of poor Black and brown people in these essential jobs, making minimum wage with no protective equipment, right? It's the same freaking thing all over. And so to ask them to form some heroic measure to come and swoop into our communities, the reason that we're so sick in the first place is because of the systemic racism that is in every part of this American society, from our housing and our health care to our underfunded schools. It's nefarious. but it's so insidious, and it's just this is the fabric of America. And what cotton, the fabric of our lives? Who did cotton? And
right,
you know what I mean? I'm just saying, it's awful, but you can't get caught up in the awfulness of it in a way that renders you incapacitated to act. We have to do all that we can do for ourselves. Like they say on the airplane, right? Put your oxygen mask on first.
Absolutely.
But you take stock of once you have gotten yourself situated.
Who else around you needs help?
Yeah. Who else around you needs help? Because guess what? If your neighbor's hungry, you got a problem.
That's right. Amen. And I mean, you are so on point. There are so many things to me really in the midst of this crisis that are being amplified. Things that have already been going on but just have never been acknowledged. These are social and
illuminated.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely. So let me ask you a little bit more of an introspective question here. What have you learned about yourself during this coronavirus crisis?
You know, it's like I'm a student of what makes people resilient. I'm always intrigued and interested by that because I think that is the skill set that more than anything, that is what we need to be able to do, be resilient. And so in that, I think spiritual practice is part of it, frugality, creativity.
Lay aside every weight that so easily besets you. So that frugality goes into sometimes, you know, before when we were able to go to malls and this, that, and the third, we may have been hoarding and buying things that we didn't even necessarily need. And now that's being realized too in this time.
You know, but I think you do it in a way so that you don't feel like you're lacking. Game it. Figure out how many purposes can I, you know, like when you take something out of a bag that's got a Ziploc thing on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many can I reuse this as foil? Can I make something from this? Can I stick this in a plant so that it helps? Like I stick plastic bags in my plants for water, so I don't have to water them so much. But just things like that, you know, just being resourceful. You know, having less waste.
Yeah.
You know,
and all those things are important and it's imperative right now too.
And it's kind to the planet. The less we put in the trash, because the backyard is in somebody's black and brown and poor neighborhood. The trash, anything that we waste is coming cycling right back to us.
Amen.
So the less that we're putting in this landfill, the healthier we will all be.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. And now can I go off script a little bit? And I want to ask you something that you probably didn't know I was going to ask you, but I would be remiss if I didn't, because this is of concern to me from a family perspective. I know that your daughter was in Italy during the time of like the massive outbreak over there, when it seemed like the sky was falling. Can you tell our listeners just a little bit about what that experience was like, having your own child, your own flesh and blood over there in a hot spot as this stuff was happening? And we were watching it on the news. For us, it was news, but for you, it was real life. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, you know, I think some ignorance is bliss, but, you know, it's like you got to, practice what you preach. And I kept saying to her, you know, planning, not panic. Preparation, not panic. Daily, I would, you know, tell her to make sure she had her provisions. And, you know, I was concerned when they were under quarantine because, you know, she was a foreigner, of course.
Right.
If there were gonna be any resources for those people, they would be for Italians, not for American students.
Right.
And she was so focused on her education, she really didn't realize how dire things were. So actually, she and several of her friends were some of they were the holdouts. And when they flew out of Rome, it's almost like they had their own commercial plane because there were so few people. So it was a blessing in a way because, like, you remember when that first surge of people came from Europe and they had those long lines in queue waiting to go through customs?
Right.
She called me. She had breezed through customs in New York. You know, they did the temperature check and everything. Sure. But because she was on the, you know, the tail end of it, you know, she didn't get in the bottleneck. And so, you know, she finished her quarantine once she got home. And I'm just really proud of her resilience because she didn't shut down.
Right.
And
right in the thick of it, too. I couldn't even imagine being that far away from home. Something we've never experienced before. Never. Anyway.
None of us in life. But she wrote me and her dad a letter just this week, you know, thanking us for preparing her for everything. And you know what I mean? It's like just feeling the fact that that's been the biggest blessing to me. To, you know, this is something none of us has ever experienced. Right. And to see my young adult children not panicking. Yeah. And, you know, and being concerned about other people, like she was saying. She's like, so now we all know what refugees feel like. And people who always live under the gun. The whole world is feeling that. Yes. You know, my daughter in California, she's like, Mommy, I have enough. I'm mad at the people who go in there and grab all the eggs. So seniors, once they get their money, they can't go and get a carton of eggs. You know what I mean? So the fact that they are
conscientious and compassionate towards others.
And compassionate for other people. And so, I don't know, I guess I learned that what made you will keep you. And those good habits that you have around not just looking out for self, again, being frugal, being resourceful, but being concerned about more than just yourself. That is the only thing that's going to sustain us through this, in my opinion. History repeats itself, you know. But you know what? We can't sit down through this. We got to increase our lung capacity. Start doing jumping jacks. You know, like if you get concerned about something, 10 jumping jacks. Because what we got to be able to
proactive.
Right. To be proactive, build up your, you know, eat well, eat a piece of citrus a day, hydrate, stop eating junk food, and move. Turn on some music and dance each day. I have a cousin. I've had 2 family members who survived COVID. The 20-something-year-old did a live with our family, and she was saying that the doctors told her, like, both of her lungs had collapsed.
Jesus.
The doctors told her that the reason she survived is she's a worship leader, and her lungs, because of her singing.
Come on now, look at God.
That's what they told her. They said this could go either way.
Okay.
And it was her singing that had her lungs healthy. So I'm saying, you know, the things that we can do to be proactive include eating well and moving. We can't, you know, we can't be sedentary.
I love it. Well, this has been, I wish I had more time, and I'm definitely going to have you back on HighVibe Conversations because you are the bomb.com. And
No.
My life.
But please, let me just say, I am an expert on nothing. One thing I know in life is I don't know anything. But you know what? We all have a divine way of knowing, and those things that come to you in your spirit to do, don't question it. That gut, your instinct, that is God talking to you to do what it is you know you need to do.
You need to do. That's still
put you a pot of beans in your crock pot and make your meals last, and stay out of the stores. Stay out of the store.
For God's sake, stay out of the store. And if you do happen to go, be sure to wear your
mask up. Mask
up for sure. Well, I love you to life, and you know
love
that.
You too.
And I thank you so much.
Hey, Tawana, please talk to these young people, 20-somethings, teens. They're not taking it seriously. They're out here. They're not wearing masks. Make it fashionable. Tell them to put on a bandana on their faces. Even if they don't have masks, something is better than nothing.
To cover their faces.
Yeah.
You're right. You are so right. Well, I certainly will. And let's do it together. Let's make it cool, because that's what's going to save lives. So again, I thank you. I appreciate your wisdom, your insight, your compassion, your love, everything, all the high vibe energy that you just gave me. And
bless your whole heart. Bless your whole heart.
Well,
love
thank
you.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
High Vibe Conversations.
I just want to sincerely thank you for tuning in to another episode of High Vibe Conversations, the podcast that strives to spread peace and positivity in the midst of this pandemic.